Yeah. Well, let me do the intros. Well, thanks everybody for joining. So this is the Microsoft Community Office Hours, and we may have some other folks join the panel. I'll be watching that, kind of moderating, but it's an Ask Me Anything AMA format. So if you have questions, we're going to go through and we're going to talk about open questions that are out on the Office 365 community page on Facebook. We are live streaming in a couple different locations, which is why we're using the technology that we're using, folks, because we're live streaming in multiple locations. So, but feel free to ask your questions wherever you're seeing this. We've got out on the Office 365 community, we have a watch party going. You can join us over on the Zoom call. You can DM us, and any one of us send it to Mike, Sean, or I. We'll probably have Hal join shortly here and a few others.
Yeah, he's been known too.
Yep. So I will watch that to make sure if there's anybody else that is jumping in, I'll catch that. But Mike, you have a question you want to address.
Well, actually, I have two things. The first thing I noticed this morning is that, for the 365 folks, Stream this week is rolling out a new feature. And of course, for some reason, my subscription in 365 always gets the features like last. I don't know why, but they're rolling out a new feature. They said it's starting this week, screen recording. So they're adding the screen recording capability that you can go ahead and do what you can do in, like, Camtasia or, any other kind of screen grabbing type software, the 365, which I thought was pretty cool, especially during this, pandemic situation where a lot of folks are creating their own material. Now you can use Stream. Obviously, once it's created, then you run into the problem of putting it in Stream and then only having people that have 365 accounts access it and all that kind of fun stuff. But anyways, yeah, I thought it was kind of cool that they announced
It's an important distinction too, that people ask the difference. Well, why are we doing with these recordings? And depending on who your audience is, who you're trying to reach, there's a reason why we're using this other non-Microsoft technology, because we're trying to reach people in communities that are not, in the enterprise, and so Microsoft is, famously supports their features are predominantly for the enterprise. Stream is not a YouTube replacement, and so that's something that you have to think about. You can go and record and create those videos. It's largely for an intranet, for an internal organization. That internal consumption that you're creating those kinds of videos. You still need to go and export that or use that elsewhere. And then I see you've got a link. I'll share the link out.
Yep, that's how I found it this morning. I thought that was pretty cool. It came across the wire. Another one that I saw that really piqued my interest is that now, Christian, do you work a lot with SharePoint? Audience out of there.
Sean and I both do. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. The whole Spaces deal. I really never looked into SharePoint Spaces, but one of the gentlemen that works on the PM team created a video and just posted it this morning about how to create a virtual facility in SharePoint Spaces. Being able to take 360 photographs and being able to have people go through a virtual world, if you will, a virtual space where they can click on an office and see that entire office in a 360 view, and then come back out and go into another office and see it in a 360 view. It's a good demo. It's really a great demo on what you can do with 360 spaces.
What was that old technology? Remember that Microsoft had that photograph, that kind of stitched together technology. I just remember when it came out, when it was announced.
Wasn't it Stitch?
Was it Stitch?
I think I
was trying to remember. I was thinking Stitch. Yeah,
Stitcher or something. Yeah.
But when that came out, I was actually in DC, and I think it was back when it was called WPC, so the Worldwide Partner Conference, and now it's Inspire. But it was the opening of the World War II Memorial in DC and on the Washington Mall, and so I walked around and took pictures of the World War II Memorial, which is pretty good size, and added it up there, and it pulled together that experience. What's cool about that is that it using the cloud, it will add your photos to. So Stitch was the technology that linked them together. But I think there was a second technology where you could actually kind of pool your photos, make them cloud available, and it would actually go and.
He froze. Did he freeze on you, Sean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally frozen.
Christian froze. Get a picture of that. That's not a very flattering picture of him. Get a picture of that.
Let's see here. Yes, there we go. Got it.
Hello, Christian. He's probably just continuing to talk. He's just sitting there. No, he's up. You got it. He's above you in my screen.
See, on my screen, he's to the there. Got that good.
He's gone now.
Yeah, I think his system probably crashed. So
we're still. Oh, so we're still. Are you like like you're one of the organizers? So this continues on even though he left.
Yes. Lost all power. House went dark. Oh, jeez. So we lost Christian.
Awesome. He doesn't have a generator? Come on, Christian.
So let me let him know that we're still going. My goodness.
Well, I don't know if anybody is still on. Well, we'll just pretend. Okay. Let's pretend.
Yeah.
So yeah, the storage, the SharePoint Spaces, like I was talking about, I thought that was kind of cool. I've never played with it.
I've been in the Spaces preview for quite some time now. Yeah. And you're right, it is.
Have you ever created any spaces in there? Because it looks to me like, I mean, you can create, besides adding 360 photographs, you can add all kinds of, 3D objects.
Yeah, you can add 3D models. It'll import Blender models, Maya, things like that. So keep going. We'll rejoin as soon as I can. Power on, system rebooting. Okay.
Does it actually work with like the HoloLens? Does it bring you?
It'll work with HoloLens, Oculus Rift, Microsoft Mixed Reality. Pretty much anything that's got a web browser and VR capability, you can go to it in a space.
That's pretty cool because my son does a lot of stuff with Minecraft and a lot of stuff with his 3D worlds. Mm-hmm. And I think of it as like, maybe we can build a world, build a space where he can have all these individual little things that he can just click on and go into that world and come back out and go to another one, because he uses a headset and everything. I don't have one. He has one, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's kind of, the thing is with Spaces, it's conceptually, it's really neat and it's cool to see how it's evolving. They, I think, are still, VR has enough trouble making business cases in many instances, and I think with Spaces it's even more difficult. How do you parlay this into something that not only will see adoption? Well, it goes way beyond that. The idea of the virtual tour, office tour, is probably a step in the right direction. And I know they keep adding capabilities to Spaces. The platform is still evolving. It's come quite a long way since when it was first rolled out. I know I've been in the preview program for probably a year and a half now, because it's been out for quite some time. But it's been preview.
Yeah, and I've never. These are the things that you stumble on when all of a sudden you see a headline come across or a tweet or something like that, and you're just like, wow, I never even looked at this, and I really haven't, because SharePoint, to extent of being able to use shared libraries and stuff, that's all I've ever used it for. You know, not really gone any deeper than that. You know, I'm not an Office person, so
right.
It's not something that I go too deep in because I just want access to files on the OneDrive side.
Sure.
You know, and creating a team site for project status and stuff like that. That's it. That's it.
Standard stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been in almost exclusively working with SharePoint since 2004. So.
Oh, I know. You're a legend. You're an icon. I mean, you need any answers about SharePoint, man.
I can. I can point you to somebody. Christian, much the same way. Christian has been across platforms. I came from the development world, and I got into administration out of necessity with SharePoint. So building servers and installations and architecting SharePoint farms for many different organizations. So all that kind of stuff. SharePoint's good for multidisciplinary stuff. And back before we had cloud, anybody doing the tech side of it, you pretty much had to be a gearhead because you didn't have the platform running for you if you didn't have some ability to keep it running and get it running.
That's when SharePoint was hard. I mean, and it was on premises, it was hard.
Yeah, it was. And most people kind of look down their nose at it, especially developers. The development world, it was like, ew, I don't want to work with SharePoint. I couldn't blame them. I mean, back in the old Wild West days, there was no tooling, no support in Visual Studio or any other development platform. And all the stuff that made it possible was third-party, mostly community-driven.
SharePoint Designer.
SharePoint Destroyer has been around for a very long time, as many of us. Because if you were an admin and people, at least Microsoft eventually put controls within the farm environment that allowed you to limit or prevent the use of SharePoint Designer. But prior to that, SharePoint Designer included enough integration ability to tweak and things like that. You could do some very interesting things with it and create workflows and other sorts of stuff, but it also let you pretty much break things. Sites. And there are story upon story of people who have, that's why we call it the SharePoint Destroyer, because people trash their environments. Not because they wanted to, but because you didn't have the bumpers and the bubble wrap on the product, and you can really hurt yourself and your environment.
Yeah, I remember that. It was the days of the old intranet sites. Remember, I don't know if you remember, but when you first started to build an intranet site, you'd use an editor. Like I used an editor way back when called Hot Dog. The Hot Dog editor was like the coolest thing
Hot Metal Pro.
Yeah, it was Hot Dog. Hot Dog was a
Hot Dog. Yeah, Hot Dog. I just remember the Hot Dog theme for Windows.
Oh,
the ugly yellow, red, orange thing that was just retinal pain. Hot Dog stand.
Yeah,
that was horrible.
But what we did a progression is that you had the internet site, and then now you'd create it in like Hot Dog, where you'd put in like the little construction sign with the little flashing red lights and the guy in his construction hat under construction, and the fonts, the crazy fonts and the Comic Sans and the different colors and all this other stuff.
That's back in the HTML 3.1 days.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden SharePoint came along, and everybody thought, well, you can create some really cool stuff in SharePoint. And then people got into it, and they're like, holy crap, there's a lot involved here, number one. And number two, I can't manage all of this stuff because it's just crazy.
And thus began the building of SharePoint sites that everybody wanted it to look like something other than SharePoint. That was the number one request to developers. Make it look like something other than SharePoint.
Customization. Yeah, they wanted to customize the crap out of it. I remember that.
And they did.
Well, and then, you work with companies. I worked with a company that brought in SharePoint to do, it was an insurance company, to do their policy system in terms of their employee around their project management, stuff like that. But they had to bring in like 4 people just to, number one, plan out how the SharePoint site was going to be put in, but and with all the workflows and the permissions and all this other kind of stuff, and then basically 4 people for a year built that thing. I mean, it was crazy.
I understand. Yeah, I've been part of many small and many large enterprise level efforts, and the burn rates for some of those teams and consulting dollars was just off the charts.
Cool. All right. Well, I got one more thing I was going to bring up, but and that's, have you ever used, and I'm going to mispronounce this, is it Kaizala? Microsoft Kaizala?
I'm not familiar with that, I don't think.
So that's part of 365. I got the question asked to me last week, is that somebody was going through their tenant in 365 and all the apps that they could use. And they were like, oh, wow, cool. I can use Planner and I can use To-Do and I can use all this other stuff. And then all of a sudden they saw this icon for Kaizala. And it's basically the same thing as like Skype. From what I can tell, it's a intercompany messaging app that allows you to do all kinds of, So, look who's back.
Oh, boy. And he's back, folks.
What a wonderful feeling when just suddenly mid-sentence and then all lights go out, just dark.
We weren't listening anyways, but that's
it is funny. My wife is going to school right now, and she says, is there a reason why the power went out? There's probably a reason why it went out. And she says, well, it's a good thing I may have been in the middle of a Zoom meeting. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, I've got a great screenshot I took to eventually share with you.
Yes.
Oh, nice. Was I frozen in time there?
Yes.
Oh, buddy, you were a statue.
Oh, that's awesome.
You were positively granite.
That's excellent. That's a good look for me. I'll edit that in the video.
Very stoic.
Oh, yeah. Good thing. So.
Oh, and by the way, I want to say hello to Jason Himmelstein, who is apparently watching our feed. So, what up, Jason? You can hop in if you want.
Yeah.
Just don't freeze. Don't freeze.
So we continue the conversation, even when you were gone. So we can carry this thing. We can just continue on. We were babbling on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go and restart the live stream. So,
gotcha.
Any other questions?
Oh, on our screen it says it's still doing live.
Yeah, it says it is.
Oh, okay. Well,
there's Hal.
Hi
what
there.
up, Hal?
Yeah.
Hey, good to see you.
I'm doing fine. My attention's a bit divided this morning. There's another meeting that I'm listening to, so I'm kind of trying to keep track of what both of y'all are doing. So.
Oh, you're multitasking. Very dangerous game you play there.
Yeah. No, it's MVP orientation day, and there's a meeting.
Cool. Yeah, the call's going on right now. As a matter of fact, I think during this call is the new MVP call.
Oh. Fresh meat.
Yeah, at least until July 1st.
Yeah, we're in that awkward in-between period.
Yes.
Where everybody gets to play MVP, but nobody knows who.
Hey, we do have, I don't know if you guys have been watching the questions over on the live stream.
I can't see the questions.
Okay. And is that audio bleed through from another channel?
I think it's Hal.
Yeah.
Hal's other meeting.
Okay.
Let me turn my mic off.
Yeah, no worries. So a couple of comments. So a couple of people are I see who was first to ask the question about why we're doing this in Zoom.
Oh, not again.
Yeah.
We're going to take bets on that.
I know.
Link them to the public service announcement.
Because we're live streaming. So the answer to the question why we're using the technology is because we're live streaming on multiple social channels, and you can't do that with Teams. There is the ability to go in and set up a third-party service like OBS. And as we were talking before we started recording this morning, I've run into some technical issues where it's not picking up the microphone. So I could get the screen but not have sound, or vice versa, have sound but not have the screen. Like there's something off in my OBS setup. We'll get there eventually.
The reason we're using Teams is because we're haters. Absolute
Zoom?
Haters.
Yeah, we're using Zoom because we're haters, you mean?
Absolutely. I'm a hater.
That's right. So anyway, so the other question, is it possible to run flows on their own, not necessarily linked to an Office 365 account?
No, there has to be some account context associated with the flow to act as
the engine. The engine has to have an authentication to run a flow.
Yeah, and so it's Amar saying that the problem is that flow stops running if the flow creator leaves the organization. Also, if the flow uses emails, the default behavior is that the sender is the flow creator.
I think you can assign multiple owners to a flow, though.
Yeah, the answer to that is it's the same problem and the same solution we've had for many different processes, which are user created and originated, but need to run on an enterprise level, regardless of the creator. Set up a third-party account or a service account, the equivalent of a service account. Grant it the rights it needs. That way, you don't, not in addition to getting it to run in a different account context, if something goes wrong, heaven forbid, they start looking at you because that flow is doing things in your account context. So if data ends up deleted or something like that, and your name is tagged to that, your account is tagged to that, it becomes difficult to make an explanation for that. And recently we've had a situation, one of the customers I'm working with, where it was a migration being run, and it turns out that the migration tool was doing some stuff in the background and it was running in this person's context, and the client was asking some tough questions like, what are you doing? Believe it or not, what this happened, they assigned themselves as another owner on roughly 1,600 OneDrive accounts. And so this, of course, tripped a bunch of auditing. And so the customer is asking questions like, did you do this? What happened? And, it became possible to state and get the vendor tool. We got, a statement from the vendor, which cleared things up. But, the customer initially didn't want to set up the tool in an admin account or a shared account context. And this proved an excellent example, an illustration of why you want to do that. So you're not looking at people suspiciously and unnecessarily. So, yeah, that's unfortunately flow is like that. It's like most web processes that are browser originated. Browser needs a context of some sort to run in, and that's typically the user who's logged in. The way we solve that in the SharePoint world, in the cloud app world, is you have what's known as an app-only context. But those applications are provider-hosted applications that run on the server, and can have compiled C# code behind them. So you've got all kinds of options available to you. Many things in JavaScript and in the browser context have to run in the currently logged on users context. And that's why certain things just aren't really possible or aren't possible in any graceful sort of way. So.
Excellent.
Nicely explained, sir.
I was going to say total silence. Chirp, 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 chirp.
So from the conversation earlier, so Mike, after you were talking about the new stream features, and I did see that blog post come through, there was a question that was related to that. Somebody asked out on the Facebook and the 365 community, does anyone know the streaming bit rate of Microsoft Teams and the upload rate for recording meetings on stream? And there's and I grabbed the link to this.
Yeah, they're adaptive.
Right. So you can still go in and set, of course, for
default bitrate
quality. Yeah. Let me grab I'll just share the link to this.
And while Christian's doing that, the reality is they'll be dialed up or down depending on available bandwidth, the number of concurrent streams you're trying to get on somebody's screen at once, load of the service. All of these factor in. But yeah, Christian, I'm sure will come up with a link on.
Does that also apply to the live streams? Because I heard the live streams are under different, because they're handled differently than.
Right. The live streams especially are adaptive bit rates. That's why you'll see sometimes people go a little more pixelated, or the feed will go more pixelated. And oftentimes when that happens, it's because video quality is suffering and or your audio quality breaks down. And so they'll, since you're multiplexing the bandwidth, they'll shift bandwidth resources to audio preferentially over video so that the audio doesn't suffer. Lots of good stuff. Lots of heavy technology and processing in the back end of this stuff.
Yeah, there's has there, and I don't know the answer to this question. I know a few people have asked, but is it Microsoft's plan to offer out an anonymous, like a public anonymous access into stream content, so it essentially becomes like YouTube? Do we know if that's? I mean, there's been talk, but I don't know if that's officially, if they've said, it's because it's not really the scope. There's a reason why it's not there today, because it's not a YouTube replacement. It's internal.
Right. Well, and on top of that, like every other Office 365, you need to be signed in and authenticated for most of the services, and definitely in any if you're doing anything more than just viewing or reading, because many sharing links can get you that far, but in order to actually contribute or make any meaningful changes, you've got to be authenticated so that authorization can happen based on, to determine what you can and can't do. With Stream, Stream's the same way, and I don't know enough about Stream. I don't really use it, at least haven't used it yet.
Well, it's been over a year since, originally I remember being in a conversation with the PM and talking about how, the whole external authentication for even Stream, because at that time, I think it was 2 years ago, they started saying that if you're on Microsoft Video, you have to migrate over to Stream.
Mm-hmm.
And sadly enough, I went there, I was in my Stream account this morning, and I still have the banner saying, oh yeah, you still have access to Microsoft Video, you want to migrate to Stream. So 2 years later, and they still don't have everybody migrated over to Stream. But at that time, I asked him about, having that, anonymous access. And he's just like, would we really want to take on the YouTubes of the world? Would we really want to take on the Vimeos?
Yeah, there are enough other services out there. What would the value add be, or what would the distinguishing factor be?
I mean, it's Microsoft, so they could, they change their mind, as much as people change their clothes. So
more so. In the case of my son, I can say more so. Son, when was the last time you took a shower? Oh, jeez.
Sounds like Christian though. It's
yeah. It's wait,
the scraggly statue.
Let me just say that. I'll just say that that's just one of the. I know all the jokes about working from home, and people like, what day is it? What time is it? It doesn't matter. Like I'm in the basement, so I'm already in dark. Like I go walk the dogs, and I have to put on a hat and sunglasses because it's just so freaking bright.
Yeah. And I might say, for somebody who's a cellar dweller, Christian, you have amazing color.
Because I take like 5-6 walks every day, and so in the high altitude you burn more quickly. So
yeah, this is my summer tan.
Yeah, well,
I got the pasty white cavefish complexion.
You see, like there's the watch band.
Oh wow,
nice little white.
You got the lines.
I've got the farmer's tan.
Yeah, no, we don't need to see that. No,
yeah.
No, we don't.
Sorry, it was too much.
He's already he's losing clothes already.
It just became PG-13. I know. I'm sorry.
So much for the family channel.
One thing I did want to say that there's a number of questions. This is becoming kind of a steady stream. We have a lot of EDU, so education sector folks that are asking questions. The most common question that I see posted is saying, hey, I tried to go in and I log in and set it up. I see absolutely nothing. What's going on? So if you are a student,
what's the context?
So I'm trying to scrolling to find one of the questions here, but it's the common scenario. Where did I see?
Is it 365 in general, or?
So let me.
They're logging into.
Log into office.com and you get that generic page with all the links to the work.
Well, they're going in. They're like, oh, hey, my organization or my school is using Office 365 or Teams or whatever it is, and they go to log in. Yeah, here it is. So somebody says, I downloaded Microsoft 365 on Windows 7 with my university email, but it asked me to activate Microsoft, and when I tried to sign in, basically you get a blank screen. So there's different versions of that experience. And
when they try to sign in, or when they successfully sign in?
When they try to sign in, and then there's just like a blank screen. But I love it. So some of the answers that are the non-helpful, somebody says, upgrade to IE 11. That'll solve nothing.
No.
Yeah, so two people with Internet Explorer suggestions, and that's generally not the issue. The problem that most folks have is that may not be even added in the system. You need to go to the administrator, start there, and make sure that you do indeed have the correct licenses and login information. That would be
The makes me think, because I've watched my wife do this and I understand how she's set up. She's a university professor, and I know their IT department is stressed like many educational institutions, trying to do too much with too little. And she's been working from home for quite some time now. And when she fires up her university computer, Global Protect automatically sets up a VPN tunnel to the home base. So, we frequently are dealing with issues here where her VPN tunnel is screwing things up. Office 365 works best if you internet egress from the point of usage or as close to it as possible. If you're in an educational institution where you've got a computer and they're sending it back down the pipe to your school or to some other location, there may be issues with firewalls. There may be issues with browser destinations not being trusted. And I've seen this manifest many times and in many ways, but a common one is you get redirected to authenticate, and that starts, it looks like it's a simple redirect, but there's actually a very complex handshake going on between your system, Microsoft systems, and there are a series of redirects in there. If those redirects don't complete as expected, you can get hung looking at a blank screen. And that will happen. And you can detect that depending on how much you know and how much you're willing to play with your browser tools. If you hit F12 and go to the console tab, you may see a bunch of blocked destinations. You may have some 404s, or if you've got like 401s and 403s, which are authentication related HTTP errors, that can mean that a destination is restricted perhaps, but it can be a whole bunch of different things is what I'm saying. But if you get to the login screen and you successfully authenticate and you get redirected to a web page of some sort, and the problem is where do you go from there, that's a different question. But the authentication one I see most often manifests as that blank screen when you're redirecting to authenticate.
Okay.
It's kind of difficult to tell too, because you don't know if that person you have to see what they're experiencing, because just by, launching Word and it comes up and it says sign into, to activate Word. When you sign in to do that, it doesn't give you anything in return. It just puts your name on the upper right-hand corner, and you're authenticated, basically. And now it doesn't sit there and tell you that you have, limited use and you're not licensed and you're, whatever. or are they actually getting it where they're logging into 365 and then they don't, they see a blank screen? There are all kinds of different ways, depending on what they're experiencing.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I suggest most administrators, especially within schools, are going to provide a walkthrough of steps for students that are logging on for the first time, and it'll run through those different scenarios to make sure that you are properly added to the system, that you've got the right licenses, that depending on your version of your desktop, of your of Windows and browser and all those kinds of things, that'll make those recommendations, or the minimally required to be able to use their solutions. They'll provide all that information. That's where I would begin. If you've gone through all of that, you confirmed you've got the licenses, and then you can go through and start troubleshooting. If there's likely, if you are still you are properly added in the system, the admin confirms that you've gone through all the steps and you're still getting blank screens, there's something else going on that may be unrelated. But
I would question, I'm going to circle back on this. I would question, why are you still using Windows 7?
Well, there's that. Yeah.
Lots of, if you look at the numbers, there are still tons of Windows 7 installations out there. And I can tell you,
using Windows XP for that matter.
XP are the most grievous offenders, but Windows 7 still is, a lot of organizations, particularly ones that are strapped for support, may not have updated images. It takes somebody time to rebuild all those systems on a newer OS. And if a user doesn't know how, oftentimes when they get new computers, when their machines refresh, is when they get an updated OS. It doesn't happen before that.
Hey, we've got a couple
perspective. I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead, Mike. Finish that.
I was just going to say, from a student perspective, though, it's not like they're getting equipment from the school. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they are. But usually it's like you buy, the student have their own laptops or whatever. They're just given the tools to actually connect into the school. But
right,
that purchase is theirs. So, I mean, from an upgrade capability, if they're still on Windows 7 as compared to, they didn't jump to Windows 8.1, and they went, for whatever reason, maybe they're on some old hardware. Maybe they're just running some old hardware, and I get it that some folks, that's all they have. That's all they have to use is older hardware. And that brings up a bigger, thing we could talk about, is about how, the school should be helping out and stuff like that. But it's the same thing with Chromebooks with my son. The school's like, oh, we don't want any Windows devices. You can only use a Chromebook.
Yeah.
That's really limiting too. So
I can tell you that in the case of students, I agree with you on the whole, bring your own hardware is typically the case. For university and school faculty who are issued machines, like my wife and all of her coworkers, they're at the mercy of what their IS department hands them.
Yep. Well, so we've got a couple other questions that have come through. Let's jump over. So here's a great question. It's Teams related. I believe pronounced Soe. Says, how different are standard channels and private channels? And can I create a meeting schedule using the team calendar and share to a private channel?
Yes. Yes, you can do that. I mean, the difference between a standard and a private channel is just a private is people you invite or you allow into that channel. A standard channel is one that is public, that people can browse the channels and be able to connect to. And I assume by channels, you're just, you're talking about in the Teams perspective, the chats, right?
Right.
So.
Yeah, so they work, you're right. So it works the same way. It's just a restricted permission set of those who have access to that. But otherwise, functionality-wise, everything is the same.
Yeah.
And so the next question here. Mikey provided just a link for changing the owner of a flow if somebody leaves an org. So thanks for that link.
Yeah, there are a couple of good links and walkthroughs out there on how to do that.
Yeah.
So Christian and Hal, you didn't hear this question, but I wanted to ask. I asked Sean it. Have you ever used? Is it? And I might be mispronouncing this. Kaizala.
Yeah.
Microsoft.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's the purpose of that as compared to Skype or whatever communicators that they have? Other than that, I mean, am I seeing that right? What is Kaizala?
Kaizala was just another chat tool. So it's actually been, I don't know if it's gone away yet, but I believe it's being all folded into the larger team strategy. Look, my perspective is, so Kaizala was kind of an answer to the text-based tools, the, WhatsApp, WeChat, kind of that, that.
AOL Instant Messenger. And those
so the SMS-based chat tools, Telegram,
it's a
things like that.
First line worker tool.
Right. So so it's a first line, front line. I still prefer front line worker, but first line. But yes.
Yeah.
But it's and that capability is being folded into Teams. I've not been following it very closely. I was never really a user of it. I have the app. It's in my phone, in my MS App Graveyard folder. Not that it's dead. It's just that I don't ever use it. But I occasionally, like this conversation, I'll go back and say, "Is that app still working? Is it still out there?" Oh, hey, it's.
Well, it's one of the reasons. I got someone who just has never gone to the 365. They logged in for the first time. They see all these apps, and they're like, wow, I get to use, like I was telling Sean, they get to use Planner and To Do, and they're checking all this stuff out, and there's still an icon for the Kaizala.
Right.
So they're just like, what is, you click on it and it opens up and it asks them for their phone number, and they're like, well, oh wow, it's just another chat thing. So why aren't I using Skype? And they asked me that question, and I'm just like, I've never used it. I didn't. Even
So so you think about it. So I still actively use Telegram, because a lot of the blockchain community that I interact with,
and privacy,
that's the platform of choice. It's like there's certain things that you have. Telegram and the Brave browser are two things that
Telegram or Signal.
Right. And but it's so it's that SMS based chat, so it's much more secure, controlled, and you're not going through any of the the massive companies that are a bit risky with the trust and security. So whether it in fact, I could take a look really quick to see if I don't know that there's a secure mobile chat app. I was just seeing if there's any other information on it. I mean, it's still out there. You can find it just out on Microsoft.com.
Is it really secure if it's going through Microsoft, though?
If it's going through the SMS, it's a heck of a lot more secure than
Skype.
Yeah, well, other tools. But it's, the other thing I chalk it up to, like they went and they created that solution to kind of, again, the competition coming out, and they needed an answer for that capabilities. Whether that's been rolled into Teams or is planned to be rolled into it. The other side of this is Microsoft historically, has created, dueling applications, and part of that is, they'll go down a different branch of a series of functionality, and they'll kind of see like who's going to win here, where's it going to take off, where's the adoption going to happen, and
today's application deathmatch.
Right, and it was. Microsoft famously had the battling business units kind of model that was part of the old Gates Bomber management strategy.
Hair Bomber.
You'd have like 2 or 3 different products, and they'd throw them at the wall and see which one stuck, and take kind of the best in theory.
I thought it was the people they threw at the wall.
Polymer probably did that.
Right. Good thread of conversation.
Is this thing on?
Excellent. Yeah.
And my name is Christian Buckley.
Thank you. All right, so we've got another 12, 13 minutes left. So any other questions that you might have, feel
Did you
free.
get all the ones in your chat window?
Were there more in the chat?
I don't know. It sounded like there might have been.
I'm looking through responses.
One of the things that came up last week is during an actual Microsoft meeting, a Teams meeting. Yeah, I don't know if you guys are on those, but for those that are listening, we obviously, as Microsoft MVPs, we have these sessions that we're allowed to attend somewhat on a sporadic basis. It's gotten more frequent in the last couple of months, actually.
A lot more.
About products and technologies, right? One of them is Teams. They've been pushing Teams, obviously, because of what's going on. But one of the topics that came up in a lengthy discussion around the whole team scenario was not only around the futures, right? It's around not only the ability to have multiple screens and all that kind of stuff, but I couldn't believe that a conversation that went on for 15 minutes was around music on hold.
Really?
15 minutes, there were people saying that it should be like top priority to have the ability to stream music to a meeting.
I think I remember hearing that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't understand that with the all of the furor over being able to change the background.
Yeah.
And just like, these are not priorities to me, but
I must be on a different planet. Yeah, because that sounds like a lot of.
You are, for one, but two, this is a separate, mutually exclusive discussion.
True enough. True
Which,
enough.
by the way, what's your shirt today? I didn't even see.
Oh. Again, bad developer humor.
Yeah.
For anyone who knows anything about writing recursive code.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sick sense.
Doesn't it?
You saw it, so I'm wearing again the Year of Yammer shirt. Dan Usher asked, how does one get that T-shirt? And my response was this 3 parts, who you know, interpretive dance, animal husbandry.
I still haven't cleaned my mental. You just come up with these weird sequences. You're definitely no Mr. Rogers, I'll say that.
Mm.
The secret to cooking eggplant is confusion, Sean.
They came out with a preview version of the new Yammer.
Yes, that was. I think that's where the question stemmed from. The Yammer conversation, the news. I think I tweeted it out there. Let me see if I can find the link.
I don't know. I'm not a fan of Yammer, so I can't really.
What?
I'll just keep quiet.
I use it when I need to. It's not one of my go-to apps.
Yeah, there are certain community activities where I was not a fan when a lot of the community, just the open web community stuff moved over to Yammer. Now it's moved over because they built out the Microsoft Tech community.
Right.
And just because it was very limiting, it took years for them to build up the numbers, get back to the numbers they had before moving to Yammer. And then they had to do all that again with the Microsoft Tech community. I believe, so the Tech community now has far surpassed what Yammer was. But it was, again, that Microsoft problem where it was a closed loop. It's an enterprise application. It's not really meant to be this open general community site. It's just
now we have
knows the enterprise, but their products and services in general are just not meant to be open internet technologies.
Now I have three different things to go to. There's Yammer. Some of the the Microsoft Tap material is now moved over to Teams. So we have Yammer, we have Teams, and of course we have our ever-loving distribution lists, email distribution lists. So it's like I have to go to 3 different places just to find out information, and
with 4
stay
different
up with
accounts.
what people are talking about.
Part.
Yeah, that's the annoying part of all of that is, but look, I mean, I get it. I mean, if you're going to be in a community activity, I don't have so much of a problem with it being within Teams, being within Yammer. Look, tech community is no different. If you want to be able to respond, if you want to be able, you could go in there and look at things anonymously. But if you want to be able to respond, interact, and participate, you've got to be logged in. And so it's the same with those other communities. But there's something to be said about making content, making material broadly available and supporting community that doesn't require that login. And it's just traditionally not been Microsoft technology for that anonymous access.
Yeah, well, that's my single biggest issue with Yammer is I can't even look at the content unless I'm authenticated in the right account context. You'll get a link, I'll get an email digest or snippet, and I want to look at that, and I've got to go out there. And I hit it, and I got to authenticate, and I'm like, which account is this tied to? And you play that game.
Sean, you just need to log in with whatever account it requires of you, and just do it and shut up.
Yeah, I know. Stop my whining. You're not an independent individual. You're just funny. We were just talking about my family yesterday. We're talking about the book 1984. So
you're just a cog in the
We're
machine.
all You're all individuals. We're all individuals. I'm not. Shh. That Monty Python.
Just a cog in the machine of life.
Oh, were I to be so useful.
That just reminded me of the. I wish I could quote more from the movie Brazil with the renegade AC repairman.
Yeah,
I've not seen that one.
You've not seen Brazil?
Great movie.
Nope.
Are you kidding me?
Really?
Seriously.
No. Oh, jeez.
Wow.
Pile on, fellas.
Wow. Put it on your
Wow.
watch list, dude.
I'm shocked. Sean, you need to put that on Plex.
Yeah.
I have to get it, then I have to put it on Plex.
Yeah, it's an important film. I mean, so I put it in the vein of Brazil is one of those formative movies for me, but it's kind of like Blade Runner, Aliens. I mean, I'm a big fan of Monty Python, and so Terry, was that his first? That was
Terry
Gilliam's
Gilliam.
first.
Terry Gilliam.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was his first one. So I was trying to remember if he did that one before Time Bandits, which is another.
Oh, no, yeah, Brazil was his first one.
Yeah. So it's
Baron von Munchausen.
yeah. In fact, do you have that one too? That would put.
I don't have that one. No.
Hey, Sean, if I can put on my wish list, my request list for your Plex server is the Terry Gilliam series. Yeah,
so does everybody get access to Sean's Plex server? Is there a link we're going to put out there so everybody gets it?
I've got gigabit bandwidth, but I don't think I've got that much power and bandwidth to give up.
Yeah, for folks that haven't seen Brazil and The Adventures of Baron Munchausen is awesome. Time Bandits, of course, is a classic. I could quote Time Bandits. Do you want to be leader of this gang? No, we agreed no leader. Right. So shut up and do as I say. That's a.
I can quote Spaceballs. And
that's another important American film.
I'm surrounded by assholes.
Yeah.
Schwartz is with you.
Yeah. Go to Plaid.
Go to Plaid.
She doesn't look Drewish.
A lot of good quotes in that.
Oh, that's a great.
I gotta watch it now. I gotta watch it again now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That once in a while we get like a Black Helmet Man quote. Something. Rick Moranis is awesome.
Dark Helmet.
Dark Helmet Man. Yeah. All right. Any other final questions? I'd like to see if there's anything else that's popped up.
Can we pull out of this death spiral in the last 5 minutes?
I will have a completely new death spiral this evening at
Indeed.
6 p.m. Pacific. We'll do it all again.
climb the hill before we enter the death spiral.
That's right. Hopefully we'll not have power outages here. Still no idea what's going on. It's a bit stormy. It's not like my town is in a wind tunnel, but it's I'm at the top of the Utah Valley, so right by the point of the mountain. And so basically the huge valleys, and it gets this narrow channel, and so the wind whips through, but there's so much new construction all around me. Who knows what lines they cut through or shook a pole or something, but yeah, who knows? Sunspots could be.
Well, my case
solar
here,
flares.
It's reasonably predictable. If I get a nice, clear, sunny day, no wind, no clouds, perfect weather, I know I'm going to have a power failure.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but something about that combination, and it's only a little brownout, half a 20 millisecond bump or something like that, but it upsets everything in the house, and then it's trying to get, and then it's even the short ones are even worse because they don't, in some cases, things don't just shut down and restart themselves, and you have to manually do it.
You need to do what I do, Hal.
Yeah.
I have absolutely everything in the house on a UPS. So I'm good for typically at least 30 minutes on most systems and appliances.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I had it done the right way, I've got solar on the roof, and what I would like to do would be put a couple of big old banks of batteries.
Yeah, get yourself a Tesla Powerwall.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, because the solar cells are Teslas. And that way you can just cut the wire. And that's the thing. I mean, even like a month like right now, we're not into the great heat. So that means during the day with all the sunlight, I generally generate enough power. So if the air conditioning and other stuff uses at night, it either breaks even or I'm feeding them. And it still costs me $25 a month because that's for the line that runs between the power pole and the power meter and the power meters. Renting the power meters, so there's no way to win.
Always something.
Yeah,
that's how they get you. Just randomly throw that statement out there. No matter what we're talking about, that's a good thing to end on, and that's how they get you. So, all right, hey gentlemen, we're out of time for this one, so hopefully we'll catch everybody on for later this evening. So it'll be or early morning for Asia Pacific, but we'll be back again at 6 p.m. Pacific. And we'll do this again, and we'll go through a few other questions. I'm collecting a couple other questions that we can start on. So,
good deal.
And hopefully my power will remain on. So, yay.
Hopefully.
And this entire recording, I'm going to post this out today out to YouTube, so you'll be able to find it there, and should be up in the blog tonight or tomorrow with a jump list, link list to all the topics that we discussed. So, thank you, gentlemen.
Yep. Have a good day.
Talk to you later. All right.
Thank you.
Wonky.
All the things that we do to try and get everything to work.
Yes, indeed.
All right, so we're live streaming. It's up and going. And let me kick off the watch party over on the community page.
Watch party. Clickety clack. Man, you got a mechanical keyboard from hell there.
Yeah. Oh, plus all right, so I type with I gotta mute that. There we go. I type with 5 fingers, and so it's very heavy typing.
5 fingers. That's an interesting assortment. And it's not.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's great. So, all right. So we are live, and we're see a whole lot of Sean's face.
I'm sorry.
So we are live streaming. So this is the Microsoft Community Office Hours starring Sean McDonough. And
at least in your particular region.
That's right. Yeah. So, those that have joined one of our previous sessions, and you may have been one of them or seen other people whining about why are you using Zoom. And I tell you, we've had multiple attempts at doing a live stream with with Teams, and I'll tell you, there are a lot of problems. It is not plug and play. Trying to get stuff to work, have people join, audio or video not working. I had to I kill the Teams service twice to get it so it would recognize my camera. Just a lot of that fun. And then, of course, we're using... Yeah.
I was going to say, today was a proverbial poo show for many of us in the technical department. Both Christian and I lost power at our houses. He was without power for part of this morning's session. I lost power for most of the afternoon, and we've been playing all sorts of equipment games today. So,
yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. So good times. Yeah,
absolutely the best.
So, but it's Hal's there. Hey, Hal, you speak up. Let's see if does it switch over to you? You have your video on?
Hold on.
He's doing fine. I can hear him and see him.
There he is. Oh, there he's gone.
No,
it's on your side.
It's on my side?
No, Christian's. I'm saying I can see both of you just fine, and I'm getting video and sound. So,
yeah.
And I assume Paul Culmsee's trying to come in because I see PC in the lower right-hand corner, and I don't see Apple above it. So,
yeah, we'll see what happens here. But anyway, for folks that are joining,
I'm here. I just haven't put the camera on yet because I'm semi at work as we do this.
You just don't
light. It's night.
Semi at work. Is that I'm semi-clothed right now?
No. That's all good. But it's like on one screen I have like work, and on the other screen I have you guys. So it's a bit like being caught at the sports game when you ring up and you work and say, "Hey, I'm feeling kind of sick," and then next thing they go, and so yes.
Well, we've got a couple people, so we're live streaming in a couple locations. I've got a live stream. I've not looked at it yet, but so I pushed it out to through Twitter as well. So I guess I need to. It's out on Periscope, so I'll monitor Periscope for questions as well.
Here's Paul.
But if you have any questions around anything Microsoft 365, you've got right now you've got 4 MVPs. So ask away if you have any questions. Paul, how are things going?
I have done nothing but churn out COVID-related apps for the last 8 weeks to 10 weeks.
Wow.
And I'm continuing to do so. So it was busy as it ramped up, and it's busy as it ramps down. So
better that it's going out than coming in.
Yeah, so it just hasn't stopped. So I've been busier than I ever have been, and yeah, I totally missed that one as I answered.
Yeah, that's a true to life. The better out than in story. Yeah. It applies in so many different scenarios.
But yeah, no, that's it.
Well, very cool. Well, hey,
opening and power platforming.
Well, we've had we had for one other of our APAC time periods, we had Daryl Webster join. So we've had we've had Singapore on as well. I don't think we've had John Liu on, but we had somebody else join us from Singapore one time. But otherwise, we've been, I don't know if you noticed this stuff, Paul, we've been doing this at 8 a.m. and now 6 p.m. Pacific every Monday. This is our 8th week of doing these.
2 months.
And we're fielding questions. And we've got the first question in, by the way, through the Facebook live stream. So we've got a watch party over on the Office 365 community. We're out on Periscope. And, I was testing this out. I'll actually live stream next week. We'll simulcast to YouTube and LinkedIn as well. So we'll be in 4 different places.
When do we get Times Square?
I think we're so close to that, Sean. So
I've got to figure we are.
Well, here's a question. So is it Sharif says, I have a question: is how can I use Teams the Office 365 Essential Pack with Office 2013 Home and Business. And so I'm not sure if Teams, if you go in and look at that, is Teams even available on that licensing SKU?
What's the SKU again? What's the name?
It's the Office 365 Essentials with Office 2013 Home and Business.
Not really familiar with that one, but let me look it up.
Yeah, that's always the question is...
would they even retrofit some of that stuff back to Office 2013?
I don't know. I think you might have to be on 2016 or newer.
I thought it was just kind of a coexistence side-by-side sort of thing.
Is it?
Well, I mean, even if they coexist side by side, does that mean that they're going to interact and talk to each other?
No.
My understanding is they don't.
No.
So I guess you click a Teams invite, Teams loads, no interaction in Outlook or any of that sort of thing. It's just, side by side.
Well, Teams does not rely on the underlying Office 2016 code base, does it?
No, I was just thinking from the add-in integration,
Yeah.
Because I mean,
if you're talking about meetings from Outlook or that kind of integration is simply not going to be there with 2013. It can't.
No, but you will get support and links working in the form of anything that comes across as a browser link. And if you've got the browser MIME type set up to map to Teams.
Yeah, but that's more of a URL and hyperlink kind of a thing than it is,
right.
I should say a browser thing more than it is an Outlook or Office 2013 thing.
Sure. Yeah, I agree, Hal. I just don't know what the particular knowledge level of the person asking is. A lot of people, they don't distinguish between type assist or type. So that was an answer.
Yeah,
not
hopefully
really coordinated, but
yeah. Sharif is like they get what you pay for, I guess. But
yeah, really.
No, hopefully that was helpful. But it's I don't know if there's any other throw a little more light on here. If there's any kind of follow-up question within that that spewing of an answer out from the group.
Yeah, if there's maybe a particular aspect or something more specific in a question that we can address. Generically just speaking to a SKU is kind of hard to do.
We got another question here. This actually relates to, we kind of talked about this briefly this morning. Jules is asking, can Microsoft Kaizala be integrated in Teams? And so we talked about that, and I think that the rest of the panel had not used Kaizala.
I had
didn't know that answer. So and I go take a look really quick, but there's been the discussion about Kaizala being integrated into Teams. I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know that it's out there. I've not looked at the roadmap stuff around it because I'm not a Kaizala user. I use almost daily. I'm on Telegram with family. We use with my kids and my in-laws. We use that other product. What is it? WhatsApp.
That was a Garage product.
Oh, was it?
Microsoft Garage. Yeah.
Okay. And we were talking about kind of the Microsoft, the competing products. And but I don't know if that was what the impetus was for building that product, other than a competitive solution, since there are a number of these SMS-based chat tools that are out there. So the plan is for it to be integrated. I don't know the timeline for that.
Yeah, over 1 million downloads for it. It's now part of the Garage Wall of Fame and has launched as a full product. Huh.
Yeah, there's
definitely some love for it.
Yeah, there's an article, and it's slow here with everything running here. So this was from end of June last year. update on Microsoft Kaizala becoming part of Microsoft Teams. So they made an announcement. They said it'll be added to the Kaizala Pro capabilities will be added over the next 12 to 18 months. Ultimately replacing Microsoft Kaizala service and making Microsoft Teams the primary client for communication with both internal and extended networks. So here, I'll grab the URL. Let me paste this into the chat. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so I've not heard any updates. You could probably go out like in the roadmap. Did anybody have the roadmap site up by chance?
I'm going there. Got there now.
Okay. Yeah. If you could leave that up and maybe be our roadmap go-to.
Sure.
What's the call?
Yeah, happy to.
See if you could find something on that and share that out.
Sure.
And those that are watching that follow the link over from Twitter. So if you go onto Facebook and do a search, we've got this live streaming. We're fielding questions over in the Office 365 community. And feel free to post your questions there. Anything else? Hey, Paul, so something else that we do is we like, well, we don't have active questions coming in. Any questions that you fielded recently that were, interesting problems or patterns that you're seeing in the types of questions that you see from customers or community members?
All of mine are Power Platform related these days, so I don't know if that's going too far afield. So
no, we cover Power Platform. We talk occasionally Azure and Dynamics and kind of whatever. Yeah.
The biggest thing I've been doing while I haven't been doing COVID-related apps is a lot of Power Platform governance stuff, which is, I suppose, just an extension of years of doing SharePoint governance stuff. But if you haven't seen the Center of Excellence stuff that's been put out, it's definitely well worthwhile. And I have clients that, the Center of Excellence Starter Kit, I don't know if that's familiar to you guys for the Power Platform stuff, but it's actually that good that I've got clients that are saying, we want this for SharePoint and we want this for Teams and we want this for Power BI. So I'm busy extending COE into those worlds. But basically, it's a package of a whole bunch of flows. So just imagine you're a big organization and things are going viral. You can deploy the COE and it'll collect every app, every flow, every app maker, every connection, you name it, it all collects it. Has an integrated Power BI dashboard. Has some embedded apps inside those dashboards to manage everything. So I have been doing a heck of a lot of work deploying COE solutions. And it's just been if this was around a few years ago with SharePoint governance stuff, would have been phenomenal. So if you want sort of forensic level visibility as to what's going on in your tenant in that area, I think every cybersecurity person ever has always looked at these things and goes, what the hell is happening in this tenant? And there's pretty much your answer. So I
posted the link over to I posted it. Everybody could grab that. So that's the Microsoft Power Platform Center of Excellence Starter Kit link out, and that was updated April 10th. So just a month ago.
Indeed. So I would. That's been taking quite a bit of my time, but it's nice to have. I suppose you go through the governance of SharePoint when it was on-prem, and then Office 365, and now Microsoft 365. And when you look at this stuff, it's pretty impressive what you can do now out of the box.
Pretty sweet.
Very cool.
So that's what I've been doing.
It's exciting stuff. You just can't break away from that governance stuff, Paul.
It's. I think it's kind of a inevitable. There's like a cycle, right? In fact, with Power Platform, for me, it's like SharePoint circa 2006, 2007 all over again, where it kind of just exploded. And then as a result of the sort of explosion, then came the governance questions. Only this time it's taken a fraction of the time to actually come up with really good solutions. Maybe that's a bit of earned knowledge from a decade ago or more.
The body count for that, Paul, is very high. The body count that got us to that point.
Well, you know something, if you went through that kind of world, and a lot of us did, you either come out bitter and twisted or really pragmatic. There's really kind of they're the only two outcomes. So when you approach,
I think you can be both, can't you?
Well, there's probably, I think, to get to pragmatic, you had to be bitter and twisted, but nevertheless, it's certainly a lot easier with the Power Platform this time around. I think Microsoft also have invested in a lot of that. You can't govern what you can't see, so they've made things highly visible. It's also a great way to learn Power BI, by the way. I was never really much of a Power BI person until I started playing with COE, and now it all makes sense. So it's it's good geeky fun while solving a governance problem.
Nice. Very nice.
Very cool. So if there's anybody else watching the live stream, if you have questions, go ahead and ask. I'm monitoring in a couple places over on my profile as well as on the Office 365 community page. And we've got some people that are watching out through the link out on Twitter as well. You can go ahead and post. Oh, got some love on just as I was watching there on the Twitters. That's nice.
Twitters, huh?
It warms the heart. Yeah. Yeah. So if there are any questions you'd like us to answer, let's see. Anything else? Any other discussions that have been up on the page? Let me go through and check out from the community again. It's always a good source to look at the recent questions. I've seen a few times where we've addressed them in the live stream, and I see somebody asking a question that we addressed.
Yeah.
Like within an hour or so afterwards.
Yeah, I think it's great that you are summarizing and including time points to jump into the video for the companion blog posts that go with these. That's
it's a bit of a pain in the butt to do, but it's a if you don't know what we're talking about. Yeah, if you go over, in fact, I'll paste a link in so you can see. So I've got episode 7 posted. So I had it partially posted a week ago, and I didn't finish it. I forgot that I didn't finish the list, so I went back and finished it this morning. But I should have tonight or tomorrow morning should have this recording from. So we do the morning and this evening session. I combine them, post them to YouTube, and then I go through and do timestamp links to each of the topics that we cover. So I'll share the last one so people can have that.
Yeah, you're rocking in that regard.
Just in that one regard, I know.
At least I give you that.
I know. I'll take it. Yeah. Oh, there it is. So, yeah, if you wonder what we're talking about, go take a look. It's off of my blog on Buckley Planet. But I'm just going and cataloging each of these so that, look, we don't expect you to sit and watch through 2 hours of video, but you can scan the lists from the last 7, soon to be 8 weeks of us doing and see all the topics that are covered. And we have some other stuff like that. If you see the link there, Sean, the brief discussion that we had about llamas, I hashtagged that one. So
no, I did not see that.
Yeah, so in between automation and hybrid discussions, we briefly discussed llamas. So and ostriches. So yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, quality video here, people.
Got the whole Noah's Ark thing going, huh?
Well, the llama and ostrich part. Where our collective arc is heavy on llamas and ostriches.
What about alpacas?
Small and alpacas. I'm just not feeling it with alpacas.
Not an alpaca man, huh?
No. I'm kind of a purist that way. Just llamas.
I hear you.
You're such an alpaca racist.
Yeah.
Alpaca bigot.
Gotta be careful, Paul. That's probably a thing somewhere.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, you might get in trouble for that. You're being not particularly pro alpaca. Was it alpaca? Yeah, it was alpaca. So I got confused between the Alpaca and the Llama.
Pro-Paca.
Yeah, Paul, you're probably one of those people that thinks all llamas and alpacas look the same. Wow. So llama racist, alpaca racist. All right.
By the way, when someone in my family, doesn't eat their greens or something, I go, "What, are you lettuce racist?" So I kind of use that as a thing in general.
Nice.
Yeah. We do the same in our household here. So, yeah. Okay. Let's see. Any other questions that have popped up? I'm just going to scan down through the Office 365 page and see if there's anything else that has gone unanswered. I don't see any other questions posted right now. So if you have any questions, don't be shy. Ask away. You've got 4 MVPs on here.
See that the Yammer app for Microsoft Teams is launched.
Yeah, have you played with that?
Not at all. I told you I generally don't do anything with Yammer unless I kind of have to go there because of that whole authentication thing and playing the guess which ID to use sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a for a lot of people. I mean, this is something that here I can talk about it briefly, but this is something that because former company, several companies back, so we partnered with Yammer just before. In fact, they went dark on us as we were talking about building out some stuff. The Yammer team went dark on us and for a couple months, and it's because they were getting acquired by Microsoft. So. Yeah, we even did some controversial stuff, and Sean, you might remember back this, the SP TechCon Boston, where we had Yammer that had given a bunch of money and we're going to co-sponsor an Exceller party, and the Microsoft got mad. This is just before the acquisition, so they had not been informed. They got angry that we had Yammer there, so they went and gave us even more money to give Yammer the boot, which we did.
Oh, that's a crime.
So, yeah. Anyway.
I seem to recall that particular TechCon.
Yeah. But it was that was one of those green parties. I don't know, it was blinking, and I probably still have PTSD from that. But so the Yammer integration. So one of the things, since the beginning has been I'll be honest, a failure to provide the meaningful integration with SharePoint. I mean, you had the Yammer integration, the web part, and where you can kind of attach this external piece to it. And you could go through and manually, even with Teams, because I think the story around Yammer got more confusing for folks with Teams. Some people thinking, well, if I've got Teams, why do I ever use SharePoint? It's like, well, SharePoint's part of Teams. You can't use Teams and not use SharePoint. They are together. But then it was a more difficult story for there's Hal for Yammer to come into this. Now with the integration, you have a couple different things. You have the Outlook integration with Yammer as well as the Teams integration with Yammer, and so you have the Yammer app, which in fact, if I get out of how do I get out of the? There we go. You see over here. So I have, if you can see over on the left side, I've got the communities button. I won't click into it because it goes into my tenant, my Yammer, internal Yammer communities. But so I've got the app now pinned to the Teams experience, as well as you have a more automated, you can have it's easier to have a tab with a Yammer community by channel. And so you can actually have a public or private Yammer groups and communities. They renamed it communities. You can have those communities tied to specific channels that are relevant. And so that's fantastic. So you have this quick way to move back and forth in between those. But with the latest, the Outlook integration, essentially what it does is it's a way for you, like you can in other workloads, to share that conversation with an individual that you want to draw into that conversation inside of Yammer. So there's multiple ways now to interact with that Yammer. If you have, because the reality is there are very few organizations on the planet that are all in on any single tool. The reality is that there will be some people in your organization that are very email centric, some that are very intranet SharePoint centric, the things that they're doing. You have the team centric people, you have some very social Yammer centric organizations. There's still a lot of them that are out there.
Slack.
But you have, that's a different discussion for another day.
Yeah, sure it is.
So I actually tested out a third-party tool that integrates, that pulls together conversation with Teams and Slack, and it's actually pretty cool. Because so I can have conversations that are happening in my interface in Teams, and I get real time. I see the updates and can respond back to people over in Slack communities, and I never have to open up Slack.
Cool.
So yeah, there's a bunch of just cool stuff that's out there to fit. I guess the point is with all of that, even with the Slack example, is that you're going to have a mixture of tools, and you have options to bring them all together. I'd still like to see an even more unified chat experience. Like my dream is to see, if I'm having a threaded conversation over in a community in Yammer, that it is that kind of that fluid, connectivity over to that same. It might be the exact same threaded conversation happening in a team channel.
There was an intention to do that. It was a stated intention, and I got all excited, but it certainly hasn't happened. But I got to say, a model that works quite well, just getting back to the governance thread for a second, is I found if you take Teams as the place for governance type discussions, well, what's part of governance? There's platform health, there's community and building up capability of users and all that sort of thing. So if you then think about the tabs and think about those experiences, yes, you've got your discussions in Teams for your governance team. The very next tab across is pretty much Power BI and all of those center of excellence dashboards. So you've got all your analytics and decision making as to what's going on. The very next tab that comes across is probably task management, which could be Planner, could be DevOps or something like that. The very next one is your Yammer community that relates to the platform that you're governing. So from one single place, you can pretty much manage the holistic governance approach. And in that context, the Yammer integration actually works very nicely because you've got the broader community of which you're looking after, as well as your internally focused discussions that actually kind of better suit teams. And then actually, if you really want to get a bit meta and a bit crazy with it, Teams being Office 365 groups behind the scenes can actually often be used as a security principle, which means you can actually have, say, a 365 group with your admins in it with a organizational memory of conversations, which in turn is used to then delegate access to certain services. So it's almost like the security group becomes a corporate memory snapshot with Teams, which is kind of an interesting. Imagine someone comes in new, you add them in.
A little.
It is a little bit weird, but it's so cool when you bring in, say, a new person, and they can get a context and a history through the Teams chat, and just by adding them to it, they pretty much then can manage certain services. So I found that whole world to work quite nicely together. And so the integrated chat thread, I'd love to see that too. But actually, there's also a scenario where you've got the masses, if you like, and that's where the Yammer tab working within Teams works really well for groups or departments and organizations that look after a particular service, provide service to the broader business. That model of here's my internal view and here's the tied in external view and external conversations, that can work quite nice. So that's a model that's been working really well for my clients anyway.
Well implemented integrations are worth their weight in gold.
Let's see, a question from Jen saying, do we have an update share to team feature in Outlook? That's something that was announced last fall. It's, I think, just given everything going on with the refocus of engineering resources, it's been, my understanding has been delayed. I've not seen it. You have the ability, of course, to share from Teams to Outlook, but there are some people claiming to have seen in their tenants. I don't see anything online of anybody out there. I think we're still waiting for that ability to push from Outlook over to Teams. Now, having said that, I mean, you can go into a channel and grab the email and share that way. So there is a way that you can email a channel discussion, but it's, I think we're all waiting for those more automated native sharing capabilities between each of the workloads. And so that we're still waiting for.
Yeah, I just dropped the link in the chat on the from Roadmap on the Teams Outlook email integrations, the specific item that's tagged as such. Still status is in development.
Okay. I'll post that up there. There we go. Thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Roadmap guy.
Where can I take you?
Yeah.
Where do you want to go today?
We're like the Avengers. We each have our source.
No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we're not.
We're all Hawkeye. Like, I just shoot arrows, man.
Oh, brother.
Yeah.
I'm the guy playing Galaga on the deck of Samuel L. Jackson's little floating boat there.
That's right. All righty. Let's see. Any other questions that are posted? Let me go down through this. See. Yeah, I know that people are still asking the question 18 hours ago. It's a long time ago to ask a question. Now, plenty of responses on here. How many webcams can be seen in one screen? So right now, Teams still has the 2x2. The 3x3 is the last. I think there was something Microsoft person just posted that it's going to be like end of this month. So I believe it's rolling out completed by the end of this month. But I'm not seeing it yet.
Yeah. Let's see. Teams video feeds.
Yeah, I think it's
simultaneous video feeds and Teams meetings in development. Release May, calendar year 2020. So I want to say it was starting to roll to a few early release tenants, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think they said that they were going to start rolling this month, but it might have been, that's the thing. And Jen, I see your other comment too about the Outlook to Teams button showing Q1 on the roadmap. Yeah, I think in general, things have just slid because of the moving of the COVID-19 stuff and the moving of engineering resources. And so it's not surprising to see things slipping anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks from what might be posted.
I dropped the link in the chat window. That's feature ID 640444 for those who care. I'm sorry, Paul, didn't mean to jump on you there. The second link I just posted.
Yeah. So what is it a link to?
No, what am I doing? That's the wrong one. Simultaneous feeds. Video feeds, I'm sorry. That's this link.
Simultaneous feeds.
Simultaneous videos in Teams meetings from 4 to 9. That's the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, all right.
And that's 63341. Again, calendar year 2020, May. Ugh.
So I don't know about you guys, but beyond Teams, related to the COVID stuff, I've actually found in the last 10 weeks being involved. So I'll back up quickly. I was actually in a response team for COVID stuff for a large organization. The amount the quality of the solutions we can turn around and the time we can turn them around with the combination of Teams, things like adaptive cards, Power Automate, Power Apps, even Forms and SharePoint and the Office stack together is pretty damn phenomenal. Like,
right.
We're turning things around where the deadlines are ridiculous because you have no choice. You know, the government says, hey, we're now going to do this, and you have to adjust. And then an agency says, right, and we need you to give us this. So we've been working under the situation of extreme time-driven requirements, but it's pretty phenomenal what you can turn around nonetheless. And not only that, change it when you need to. So it's been a pretty interesting experience in stress testing a lot of these tools combined together, and it's worked tremendously well. So it goes beyond Teams. It's really the whole stack.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, one of those solutions I just dropped a link in chat for latest COVID-19 alerts, and it's pulling in real time from everywhere. And I believe that was designed. I want to say that Todd Baginski here in Cincinnati had a hand in the development of that. He's another MVP. Does a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he's another Power Platform guy like me.
Yeah, big time Power Platform.
Yeah, he made the shift a few years back from SharePoint to almost entirely mobile app development, and then picked up on the Power Platform stuff. And
yeah, we get together for lunch every now and then, or at least we did get together for lunch every now and then.
I didn't realize he was that close to you. So he's the MVP who initially submitted my name as to be an MVP 9 years ago. So
yeah, he lives about 25 minutes from here. He and Selena, his wife, they're up in Loveland, and we were supposed to go up there around Christmas time, take a look at his Christmas lights, because he's another one of those guys who gets his Christmas lights synced up with the music and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think we actually made it up there this year, but he does do that. He does all sorts of things.
I still think of him as being in Denver, and just every time there's a big storm, he's like, I'm sure Todd's out skiing or something, but no.
Yeah, the irony of it is, he's from Cincinnati. I met him in Denver at one of the SharePoint Saturdays way back when they were in the convention center. That was the first time I met him.
Yep. All right. Any other questions? Anybody else that is watching the live streams, feel free to jump in if you have any other questions you'd like us to try and address here.
See if we can entertain. Be entertaining, I guess.
Be entertaining, yeah.
So it's about 7 p.m. for you guys, right? So it's work day for me, 9:40 a.m. So I'll have to be off dead set by 10. Do you guys continue for a bit longer? What's the
we do 1 hour. So this is the second hour. So it's so I'm Mountain Time, so it's almost 8 p.m.
Yeah, you're 12 hours, exactly 12 hours off from me, Paul. It's 9:40 p.m. here, Eastern Time.
I'm in Mountain Time, and it's coming up on 7. So that's the difference between Arizona and Utah, or for that matter, the rest of the Mountain Time Zone.
Yeah,
Arizona gets enough daylight. We do not need to save any. We would love to export some if we could.
That's right.
Got to work on that power wall. Get that power wall out.
There's been talk for years about getting rid of daylight savings, because not a lot of people are farming anymore, and
No, I agree.
It's funny how it works. Yeah.
Yeah, they try it here once every 25 years, and everyone says no.
And goes back to the doorbell.
They'll do a trial, and it's all right for some parts, but then it gets to a certain point where to sync it up to the other side of Australia, you wake up and it's just pitch black. So you can have too much of a good thing.
Where are you, Paul?
Western Australia, Perth.
Okay.
So in the super isolated city that's doing okay virus-wise because of this, like right now, I'm really happy to be in the. Normally, I'm frustrated to be in the most isolated city in the world, but the last few weeks, I'm pretty cool with it, actually.
Been paying off, yeah.
That's West Coast Eagles territory, right?
That is West Coast Eagles territory. Very impressed. You've got some AFL
I'm
knowledge there.
addicted to AFL. Addicted. I've got years of it on tape. I've half the reason that years ago I went to the whole trouble of putting a 3-meter C-band Earth station dish. That's 3 meters being a little over 10 feet. Goodness me, just so I could watch Aussie Rules football.
Wow.
Oh gosh, when ESPN here in the States was brand new and they had just started to put it out, they had it on the cable that we had here at the time. And I'd see back in the days when there was a thing called a TV guide. On ESPN, there was this Australian football, and I thought, football is football. It's probably rugby or some derivative.
Yeah, it's so not that.
And I happened to run across one of the games one day, and I just was thunderstruck. Bug-eyed, jaw dropped all the way to the floor, and then some.
What
phrase is this game?
The phrase is gobsmacked. So
yeah, that too. Nevertheless, it's Australian football, so I've been addicted every day ever since.
10-foot dish, holy smokes, man! That is dedication.
Well, ironically, in the broadcast world, that sort of thing happens.
I don't know why it is. I end up speaking about Australian sports to non-Australians more than the average Australian. Actually, every time I'm in America, the subject of cricket comes up. I don't know why, but and then Aussie Rules football. Another one. Michael Knowles, another one who's very astute in that area. So there's a few.
Reading a book on cricket right now, learning cricket. One that Spence Harbour recommended.
Aussie Rules is becoming a lot better known here in the States because a good many of the place kickers for the NFL teams.
That's right.
Stupid are now ex-Aussie Rules footballers. They can kick the thing a country mile with horrendous accuracy. Ain't nobody here in the American kicking world has a clue how they do that. Of course, they do it from the time they're 5 years old.
Cool. Amazing.
Yeah, Paul, what is that sport that every time I'm down in your part of the world, there's a sport where it looks like a bit like American basketball, but they when they catch the ball, they don't move. They just have to throw it. And then they get
that's netball. You're describing netball. So that's where, I even played that once for a while in a mixed team. It's just a kind of community thing. But no, the idea is when the ball is thrown at you, you have to jump in the air and catch it, because once you've got the ball, you're only allowed to take one step. So you sort of land, you've got one step to stop your momentum, and then you've got to pass it. So that's what I didn't even realize it was not a thing in America. I just thought that was they're a international.
I'm learning a hell of a lot on this session, guys. Thank you very much. All sorts of stuff.
There you go. Once you're done with your cricket book, then it's time to go and do netball. So
netball.
Is that played Olympically?
Sorry, what's that?
I said, has that been played Olympically? As an Olympic sport?
I don't. It may well have. I'm not 100% sure. I think it has, actually.
Okay, I'm not sure that I've seen it. Of course, limited coverage on any foreign thing Australian from sports-wise from here in the States. And I just stumbled across Australian rules, so I'm not entirely sure I've seen it. So I'm going to have to go do some Googling myself.
Doesn't look like it. Netball and the Olympics. What's holding the sports back?
I have to say that I went to the one. When I was in India, I went to the one cricket game. It was the 2020. I'm not a fan of American baseball. I thought that the 2020 format was so much more fast-paced and exciting than American baseball.
I think
American baseball. All the action of 5 minutes packed into 2 hours.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, cricket and baseball aren't that dissimilar to each other. conceptually anyway. But I agree with you, Christian. The 2020 is pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, it's pretty. It was a lot of fun, and of course, being in that stadium in the late spring when it's starting to warm up, and there was not a breeze in the air, and you could just see it was a packed stadium. We were in Ahmedabad, and you just see the steam, rising up.
That sounds.
That part was fantastic. Yeah,
and they really like their cricket over there, and when India and Australia are kind of probably the top two teams, so that's Super Bowl level of interest. Speaking of which, actually, my first trip to the US, there was a Super Bowl, and I was in La Jolla, and I walk in and I've never met anybody before, and so I thought just to, introduce myself. I said, can someone explain to me how this all works? I don't know the rules. And I went, oh, yes, it's all very simple. It's actually a very simple game. And then proceeded to completely confuse me because my eyes don't read the plays. I just see a mass of humans suddenly just move in random directions. And then I'm like, what's going on? But anyway, there was like a whole of field touchdown and everyone went crazy. So I assume that was a good thing. And that was the first and last time I've ever really gone into that sport in any significant way, but everyone was super excited about it. But that was yeah.
It's
people like their Super Bowl parties.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm not much of a football fan. I'm American football. I'm more of a basketball fan, but I'll tell you, it was a lot of fun giving Todd Clint a hard time about his beloved Chiefs. But I was so happy for him to be there at the Super Bowl and have them win after how many years? 50 years ever? Was that their first Super Bowl? I don't even know. But to have Todd Clint there, I was happy for him to get to experience.
He was very happy, and it was a good experience. Yeah.
So just remember when they were the semifinals, and my comment to him is like, who cares about whichever team is going to lose to the 49ers? That was a race to see who would lose to the 49ers. And
Them's fighting words.
Yeah, I know. I like to troll.
I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I try to convert Todd Clint to my brand of heavy metal, but he wouldn't be in it. So he can't do the growly vocals as much as I tried. So he fancies himself as a bit of a metalhead. And,
he is. What's your brand of metal?
Progressive metal. So I'm thinking man's metal. That's right. But anyway, if it's got if it's got Cookie Monster in it, it's not his thing.
More industrial, but I appreciate some metal.
That's what I think. Sean and I are much more alike in that respect. It's funny, and I was into kind of the Mr. New Waver, and I was into a lot of the electronic music. I think at the time, I like some guitar-based music, but when the Pixies' "Come On Pilgrim" and Surfer Rosa second album came out, or first full album, just absolutely loved that album. And I was not a big fan of a lot of the grunge music, but there's just a few bands like Alice in Chains, Soundgarden. I mean, there's just some amazing bands that came out. And so then I went and sang in an alt rock band for 3 years, and so it was I have an appreciation for a lot of that. Still not much of a metal guy.
What was our band called again, Christian? I've forgotten the name of it now. We had an album called Working On It. I don't remember our name.
Did we have a name?
Maybe we didn't.
It wasn't Alan 1. I know that.
No, it was Mike Watson and I, our Alan 1. But
because when we were discussing Yammer earlier, I was like, we didn't that was our one original composition, was the Yammer song. Remember that? You shredded your voice recording that.
Yes, I remember that distinctly, and I'll provide the link for folks too. It's actually out on my personal.
For context, the song was actually called "The Answer to All Things Social," and it was probably a few months after Microsoft's acquisition. So it didn't matter what the question was; the answer was Yammer.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so we had a little bit of fun with that. But,
well, that's annoying. Okay, turn that off. Sorry.
I also dropped a link to Bunker Tunage out there. I don't know if Hal or Paul know about it, but if you're looking for some new mixes and tunes, this is a yearly project I've done for pretty much 2 decades now. Around the holidays, I'll put out a set of releases.
Cool.
So feel free to go out and grab them.
I've played guitar for 25 years and I still suck at it. So I have not improved since about 3 months in, but that's okay.
Well, I can't play anything. Didn't stop me from trying in middle school. The junior high ensemble, the only reason they kept me around is because I was the only guy who could program the Yamaha DX7 synthesizer.
So I was an Amiga soundtracker guy in the 90s. And so that was kind of my introduction to that stuff. But that actually turned me off electronic music a little bit because I was like, I have no skill whatsoever and I can just put a bunch of samples together and this sounds kind of cool. So it sort of almost, I kind of went the other way and went, actually, I kind of have respect for people that can play instruments. So I kind of drifted down that kind of road.
Sure. I appreciate it.
I'm pasting in. I've got a link to, I just shared it on the watch party inside the studio. That was the
making of our epic album.
Of the fake album, yes.
And then, somewhere in there is the Yammer song, which is an out-of-tune guitar and 3 notes. And then it's just...
Yammer!
It was music, like, same 3 chords.
It was, but that was our original, as I said, that's why that was a completely original composition, that one. Much thought went into that one.
It's because it's the layers of the song that I think make it work. So, and then of course is the classic. And how long ago was that? Was Moss World? That was in 2011. So wow.
That's
March,
almost its 10th anniversary.
That's right. We'll have to do something. I think release a box set or something.
Right next to the Horse's End set on the shelf.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
you have the preview, you have the outtakes, I assume, where I screwed up the song and then you just cut a giant edit in the middle where I went, okay, let's start again.
I don't.
So you can have the extended version with,
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I pieced that thing together using like Windows Movie Maker or something, and so there was, to get everything to line up, I'd be like, nope, shaving half a second here, no, it's still off, another 1/8 of a second, and
technology,
and so
but
actually
quite there.
Eyeballing the whole thing.
The real story there was we did that at like 1 a.m. or something in the lobby of a hotel, and then Christian says, maybe on the flight back I'll do a bit of editing and I'll kind of work on it.
That's right.
And so I wake up at like
before
6 hours.
Fly out.
Well, no, you did it like I get up 6 hours later or 7 hours later, and Twitter's just exploded because you'd edit it, cut it, and then put it out there. But
this is probably the Christian energy drink phase.
I think it was because I did it and I published it like overnight, because I had to get up at like 4 a.m. So I think it was one of those, why even go to sleep? I'm just going to go get on a 14-hour flight back to LAX. So I think I uploaded that either at the hotel there in Auckland or at the airport before I took off.
That sounds about right. That sounds like a play out of your book.
But both of those are up there.
That's funny. Yeah, you used to have some weird habits, Christian.
Yeah. Now I'm just locked away in my basement, and okay. Because you kind of like that. All right. So some people left us some angry faces on the discussion here. So if you've got questions and would like us to, we're sitting here talking about fake bands.
Yeah.
Waiting for questions to be posted. So feel free if you've got if you have questions and you'd like us to answer them. We've got a couple more minutes. We got enough for one, maybe two questions if you would like to add them. Take the time to have an angry face response to our stream. You could just be asking a question.
You did sledge the llamas earlier, or the alpacas. So.
True.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Oh, Jennifer says it's unintentional. Okay, we'll let it go this time.
The angry face, unintentional?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I thought it might be a comment on that.
Yeah.
It might be Hal.
Well, do you recognize what that is? This is?
Oh, I know Bullwinkle. Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Exactly.
Where?
Yeah. Hal's hat. You've been looking at it the whole time.
I didn't notice it. Well,
Oh,
you
my
get
goodness.
Hal.
That is
Hal, you
my
have to
professional Bullwinkle hat.
talk so you come on screen.
How many people you got showing up on your shows wearing a Bullwinkle hats?
Well, see, all I see is an HH bubble right now. So
You do? I got my video going.
Most of the time, your video's not showing up in my view. So
Okay.
You're on.
Well, I kind of have to be a little judicious with it because this poor little Surface doesn't like 4 video streams running at once. So it really doesn't even like one video stream running at once.
I do see you now. That was one of my childhood favorites was Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And Boris and Natasha.
Of course. Good times. All right. Well, hey, we've got 1 minute left, and so again, thanks for everybody for participating. As I've mentioned, I'll be combining the recordings from this morning, this one this evening, or Tuesday morning for those that are in Asia Pacific, and combining them and posting it out to YouTube, along with a link list to each of the topics that we cover. So you don't have to wade through the entire recording. You can just jump to that. So you can find that out on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and search on Collab Talk, you'll find that. So this is episode number 8. The date is on that, so easy to find that. And you can also go to buckleyplanet.com and you can see, do a search for all the office hours and look at our past recordings, again, as we discuss each of those different topics. And the website's pretty good with the search capabilities. So you can find, if you're looking for answers to specific questions, or if you'd like us to address this in a live format, we'll be back next Monday at those 2 different times. So 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Pacific, and whatever that equates in your area. So what is that? It's GMT -7, I think.
Sounds about right.
I think it's -7 right now. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining the panel. So
as always, thank you for putting it together.
Yeah. And I think we're still working out the details of this, but I think the restream and simulcast on multiple channels, and we'll work on the Teams experience.
It's progress. It's progress.
Yeah, it is progress. No more getting hate mail because we're using Zoom.
Haters gonna hate.
Even though it all works the first time. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. We'll make it work. So. All right. Well, thanks everybody.
Take care wherever you are. Have a good one.
See you later. All right.
Bye.
Bye.